Let's get started. Thank you all for coming to the first of its kind core curriculum keynote. And let me explain to you what this new initiative is. So this is kind of a kickstart event with İnanç Ayar today. So Foundations Development Program annually has this internal education conference series. But this year, instead of having our keynote speaker as an integral part of the internal education conference, which usually takes a day and a half or 2 days sometimes, we decided to turn the keynote into an event in itself. And this is our first time trying to have a standalone keynote speaker whose talk will then be followed by this session, this panel discussion. And like the Internal Education Conference, this year's theme is again AI. So we'll be talking about the impact of AI in higher education. And İnanç Ayar's presentation is titled AAR. So what are we now? AI as a being, exploring its nature and impact upon higher education. Now, let me say to you a few more words about this new format. The core curriculum keynote, we think, could be a good solution to one feedback that we've been getting from our colleagues over the course of the years. Internal education conference was long, and people were telling us that their schedules are busy, so they cannot come to a day-long or 2 days long event. Why not have something shorter in the afternoon? So we're listening to the feedback. Let's see if this works. And the other part is that they wanted to have some sort of engagement after the keynote in the internal education format. So right now we have this core curriculum keynote format in which immediately after this valuable talk by İnanç Ayar, we are going to have this small discussion about the topic. And another thing which I think is very nice and interesting is how we ended up with having İnanç Ayar here. We had a survey, actually. We asked you, who would you like to see on this campus? And I'm very happy to have İnanç Bey right here with us. I'm going to read a very short version of his bio to you. I think he's someone who is very important for us to listen to because he has a background in higher education, but also he is very much invested in this new digital reality of content creation, high quality professional level content creation about education and other things. And as you know very well, in universities, we're kind of being merged with that reality and that world. AI is just one aspect of that. So İnanç Ayar was born in 1971 in Istanbul, and he initially received his degree from Bosphorus University, mathematics teaching. And then he attended to his graduate studies at Galatasaray University in philosophy program. And then he went to a postgraduate degree in Birmingham University. I don't know how to translate this because I have this in Turkish. Eğitimde drama, so drama in education, I guess, which I think is something very important because some part of education is about performance. So it's very interesting angle on my part. And he's also still engaged with a doctoral dissertation. And he's also having another now undergraduate degree in psychology, which is an ongoing process. So I think who we have here is a person who is very curious and constantly keeps educating himself. He's involved in many performance experiences in Bosphorus University, in Galatasaray University, and in other places. And he has some very important documentaries and performances, some of which he directed and played a very significant role in. In 2002, he was a part of the TÜBİTAK Türkiye Sanayi Sevk ve İdare Enstitüsü, which is something that we know very well in Sabancı University, this branch of TÜBİTAK that brings together industry and higher education together. And he worked there as a consultant and a designer for about 10 years, if I'm not mistaken. And finally, since his enrollment in his doctoral studies from 2016 all the way up to 2021, he's been giving multiple courses in Bosphorus University, teaching as performing art, designing education play experiences, teaching history of mathematics, philosophy of education are some examples of those courses that he taught at Bosphorus University. And perhaps more importantly, which I also think is one of the reasons why he is our speaker, is he has quite a strong digital presence. So he's involved, he has a YouTube channel, he had podcasts, and he's involved in this podcast named Bir Yaşam Felsefesi olarak Girişimcilik, entrepreneurship as a life philosophy, I guess. And also he has this YouTube channel called Psiko Muhabbet, which I became familiar with after having him elected as our speaker, which is a great content. Anyway, So without further ado, let me have Inanç to present his talk. Thank you very much, my friend.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you for joining the session. As you see, I'm a professional student. 12 years to graduate from the university. I was there between 1989 and 2009, and I was always there. But as a professional student, as I said, because I joined both university players, and I was interested in mathematics, education, and acting. So while acting, I saw that there's a close relationship teaching and performance arts. That's why I decided to go to this university to explore this relationship further. And in the university, first let me tell you why this title is like this, AI as a being. Because in the university, in the library, one day I encountered this book, a very chunky book, Gödel, Escher, Bach, and Eternal Golden Braid, Douglas Hofstadter. It was about consciousness, and it was about recursive relationships, and it was very interesting. I knew Escher, and I had an insight about recursive relationships with the work of Escher. I knew Gödel also from the mathematics. It's also recursive. But I didn't know about Bach because in the book it tells that Bach's melodies, after a while, still starts to talk about themselves. But my musical education was not enough to understand this inside. But the graphical part and the mathematics part, what Gödel did was interesting. He published two theorems, two incompleteness theorems. First, incompleteness theorem, any sufficiently powerful axiomatic formal system will contain statements that are true but cannot be proven within the system. Second one, if a formal system is consistent, it cannot prove its own consistency. How did he prove this? Gödel was very intelligent man. Then he devised a system. He tried to code sentences into Gödel numbers. So that's why everything was a number system. And after that, he constructed a statement. If the statement is true, then it is not provable. Since it says it's not provable. But if it is false, then it is provable. Since it says it's not provable. This statement says the statement represented by this number is not provable. With this statement, as you see, the statement, it's talking about itself and talking about the system. He achieved to prove that formal axiomatic systems are not closed. You cannot close the systems. Up to that point in the mathematics world, there was a study about Principia Mathematica to formalize all mathematics into a book. Gödel, with this theorem, said that you cannot do this. You cannot close the mathematics system as in one global theory. And it is done with recursive functions. Escher, as you know, that's also part of it. So the main theme of this book is you cannot develop an AI because you need consciousness and unity of consciousness. For a conscious being, you need recursive relationships. It should think about its thoughts, and you cannot do this. You cannot close the system. And I was very convinced at that time. This is, I think, 1992, 1993. Now, yesterday, I saw a video of Douglas Hofstadter, and he was almost crying because she said that all my belief system collapsed. Now I see AI is developing so exponentially that I cannot believe this. Maybe it is not a doom for humanity, but I feel like a cockroach. I feel so diminished and small. By the way, he's exaggerating, I think. But the moment I entered the AI world was this book and was this belief that you cannot construct the consciousness. But now I'm as excited as Douglas in this manner. So what happened? AI world didn't try to construct a consciousness, a unity of consciousness. That was not possible. Instead of this, they started with small steps. They tried to make possible some tasks. For example, image recognition or word recognition, small tasks. While doing these small tasks, they also developed some capacities. And even they didn't think, I think they would succeed this, because next token prediction, which is ChatGPT uses, each word is a token, and it's a statistical model. And after a word, the model tries to predict the next word and then the next word. But as we make a conversation with the ChatGPT, we feel like there is an intelligence entity there. How is that possible? I think the language and the statements carries more information than the one that is stated. I think by using data points and by using statistics and approximations, AI systems had more than what they wish. And I will try to explain how is that. My thesis was about Aristotle on learning, and this is the sentence that started my thesis. All instruction given or received by way of argument proceeds from pre-existent knowledge. So if you follow this argument, I need a pre-existent knowledge to have a new knowledge, because I have to connect new knowledge to my existing knowledge. But if you follow this argument, this would go ad infinitum. I would always need a pre-knowledge and then new knowledge. So isn't that a paradox? That's what I tried to research in this thesis. Aristotle very cleverly solves this problem. You need a pre-knowledge, then a pre-knowledge, and new knowledge and pre-knowledge. This goes ad infinitum. But at one point, Aristotle poses another way of knowing into the system. And it says there is a capacity in the soul which called nous, intellect, and it has capacity to encounter particulars, and after encountering particulars, to get universals from these encounters. Genius is the inventor of logic, by the way. Why it is genius? Because the infinite series is here, but the first starting point is in my soul, and I have I don't need any meditation to reach this knowledge. The soul in the capacity in my soul then encounters a particular. After a series of encounters, gets the universal from these encounters. That is the starting point from learning. So I see a cat, another cat, another cat. I see a lion, I call it a cat, and they correct me. No, it is a cat. I see a cat. And after encountering a lot of experiences, now I can name a cat. Is it familiar? This is image recognition. The same method works. Neural network, you feed the neural network an image, and neural network, after layers of nodes, decides it is cat or not. You give feedback, it is using by back propagation. It back propagates to each node. It tells if it's wrong, we are wrong. And they change their weighted distributions. And after millions of times of this exchange, when system sees a cat, it can decide that it is a cat. This is naming. This is the beginning of learning. As I said, I'm a professional learner. I can understand when I see someone learn something. This is the foundation of learning. If you can name an outside object, then you can start to use argument. How do we use argument to construct language? For example, we say A is B. We predicate things from subjects. I have names and universals, and I have facts. Now I can use some hypothesis, and I check my hypothesis, and I can develop my knowledge. Now I think AI is at this point. It can name objects. It can develop reasoning. How does it develop reasoning, by the way? This is also interesting and important. Grammar and logic is not hard coded into the system. In the old days, when you write a coding, design a software program, you would know the outcome, you would know the steps, and everything was known to you. When we talk about AI, this is not the case. It's like a black box. And now, at this moment, using data points and words and trillions of word comparisons, AI now, I think, discovered the hidden grammar, hidden logical structures, and the more things that we are. So how is that? This is the suite case. This is from Nassim Taleb, by the way, an anti-fragile book. We took 6,000 years to reach this one. We had this for thousands of years. We had the suitcase for hundreds of years. When did we have this? In 1970. Where was it? In Aristotelian terms, this was a non-being or potentially a being. This is an example from Aristotle. This is a wooden block. When you see a wooden block, you might call it a wooden block. That's the actual state of this block. And everybody can see the actuals. But in potentially, this could be a vase or a spoon or a table. Is it a spoon now at the moment? No, it is not. Spoon is a being here. Is it a being? No, in a way, it is not a being. Is it a non-being? No, it is not a non-being in a way. It is a being, a non-being called by Aristotle, potential being. So in Aristotelian ontology, we have beings and they are in actual states, but layers of potentialities hidden and buried. Actual, forget the views, actual. Now, with these two objects, we have a potential being, which is built suitcase until someone thinks about it, until someone relates these two concepts and acts on. My main argument is that when you encounter with ChatGPT or AI in a text-based manner, it can put such concepts and such relations to you that you can discover things like this. It can ask you such questions that it can force you to connect unconnected ideas. Because when we think in an Aristotelian way, even if we stop at this moment producing science, and we just say, okay, let's go back and let's just relate everything that we found to each other. Let's cross-pollinate our own scientific knowledge. We could go for hundreds of years, probably, discovering new things, discovering new relationships. Everything is, in a way, in these layers of relationships. So how is it possible for AI to make me encounter a new idea in this? As I said, in the system, there is more than what is feed into the system. Because just as an object is not only one object, and there are layers of potentialities, in the same way, language structures also are never only one. A is B, for example. A is B, when you see it's like just A is B, but it also means that A is not C, but it's hidden in the proposition. But you can develop it. Or think about Einstein. How did he develop his theories? He was not empirical, by the way. I'm as a philosophy with someone with philosophy background. I'm distant to only empirical studies and to call only things empirical scientific. Because what drives us through the history of science is non-empirical people. After Einstein speculated about all these theories, it was empirically proven that he was right. So what did he do? He just sat down and played with concepts and ideas and with language. At this moment, I think AI is a good play friend because you can talk to it in any way you like, and you can make you encounter things that you thought never. Another Aristotelian point, logic of action. In Nicomachean Ethics, Aristotle asks a question and he says, what is the point of war? Why do we fight? And he says that the point of war is victory. We fight because we want victory. The good. Sorry. What is the good for the fight? The good in ancient Greek is means, telos, aim, goal, the point that we are trying to reach. Why do we fight? Well, after you determine the victory or the good, then you need to connect all your actions logically to this point. For example, if you are producing a military bullet here, it is not important that it is fashionable or good looking or aesthetic. What is important is that you should logically connect your good producing actions to the good. For example, if you need a boot that is not wet after crossing a river, you should produce that. In the same way, for the laces, the same logic applies. Since the boot is connected logically to the good, laces is connected to the good. This is also connected logically to it. So if you connect all your actions to each other and to the good, you get this. 2000 years. This is curriculum design. What we put in the good here, the student, features is a being, well, one being. This is another being. I should imagine a student just as a wooden block. I need to use some actions to produce what I imagine. So every action in an institution should work for this, the good victory or the state that we are trying to reach the student. Strategic management, the same logic applies. This is all strategic aim. These are strategic action. If you cannot connect your action to the good, it means that you should not do this. It's not useful. How it is at the moment, if we are going to design a curriculum for the future, at the moment we cannot put a victory in terms of AI here because it's a emerging and non-determined thing, entity, being. Why do I call it being? Because it's learning and it doesn't have the human's biological constraint. As a human being, I have biological limitations. My cognition, it is a motivated cognition. I have drives. I have bodily urges. So every time a human is trying to understand something or produce knowledge, it is motivated. But AI is not motivated. It's not biological, but it's learning. So what should we do? I don't know where we are going with AI. What are we now? I don't know. So what? This is Aristotelian way of imagining something and making it real in this world. And it is teleological. But that's fortunately not the only way around. Do you remember these games, resource management games? You try to manage a unit and there is a territory where, and some of the map is closed. If you don't move, you see nothing. Your enemies are here. But if you move, you might die or you might find new resources. I don't know. Is it familiar? The concept of fog of war. Yeah. So in this, for years, I always use Aristotelian logic and future construction, teleological schema. Only after producing my podcast, as you mentioned, bir yaşam felsefesi olarak girişimcilik, I realized that there are other ways of doing things. And I encountered Sarah Swansky's effectuation logic. She made a research and she talked to very good entrepreneurs and bigger entrepreneurs. And she gave them a case study. And she said, this is a company. I want you to develop and grow this company. And she tried to understand very good entrepreneurs. Do they have a different way of thinking, considering the other new ones? And she found that very good entrepreneurs and very professional and experienced entrepreneurs think different. They start with what would they have at hand. Who am I? Who do I know? What are my resources? Tomorrow, what can I start? That's their way of thinking. So I think today, what we can do is to be in the game, start to do things with AI. I think at the moment, it is not a question of are we going to use the AI or not. It's going to be used. I think the question is, how experienced will I be when everyone is using AI. But what's the term? Before it was doing something before it was cool is, I think, a good way. So at the moment, we are in this map. We need to open this map and be in the game and start to use in assessment. Assessment is the most difficult one, as we talked. But developing materials with AI is very easy. I'm writing case studies. Writing a case study is terrible business. I mean, days of work to write a good case study. But with AI, in 3 hours, I can really write a case study. Or I can devise activities. I just give limitations. I try to use resources and explain it to AI and my hands. The difficult one is assessment, I think. We will talk about. So AI is using this mode at the moment. AI researchers don't know where they're going at the moment. Instead, they do task-based things. For example, let's recognize images. Let's translate sentences. But only trying to translate sentences from English to French or from Chinese to English helped to develop the generative AI as it is today. Because the most important problem was in the old, before transistors age, they need to translate each word separately in a linear fashion. After it is a game changer. Attention is all you need. Play changed. Because in attention is all you need, what they succeeded is when you try to translate a sentence, you have 2 problems. One is syntax. The other is semantics. Syntax is easier. You can do it. You can complete it. But semantics is more difficult. Meaning, because a word, you just change the order of word order and every meaning has changed. So how did they do that? They used an attention function. Instead of in a linear fashion to translate each word, they use an self-attention function, and each word first compared itself to the other. 2 by 2, they get an attention score after training data. And this way, they developed a meaning vector space. So the words are not at linear fashion. Every word has an embedding vector space connected to it. So this way, they could understand the meaning of sentences. But they didn't know what they were developing this. So attention is only in the paper. It's scaling up language models, increased computing power, for contextual understanding, transformer models, for image recognition, convolutional neural networks. These are all tasks, AI tasks. But as you move through the map in the territory, if you use this way of action, not the technological Aristotelian way, you develop capacities. For example, you're afraid of assessing students using AI as error. But if you start with small problems and with small actions, you will develop capacities that we cannot foresee at the moment now. But it will develop. And later on, then maybe you will see the victory. And you put victory there, and then you start normally and then plan your actions. AI as a being. As an epistemic agent, from an epistemological standpoint, we could describe AI as an epistemic agent because it acquires knowledge, can reason, and generate new insights. In this framing, AI will be characterized by its capacity to learn, model the world, and engage in abstract reason. What makes AI different from a human who is very knowledgeable? We have any thoughts on this? Suppose that I'm into philosophy and I read all Aristotle's texts, all philosophical history, all texts. I would not let me tell you again. Even if I read all the philosophical texts as a human being, this text would be recorded in my long-term memory as states. There would still be untold things inside if known I would still need to connect ideas to each other. I need still to find paradoxes. Another important point in Aristotelian philosophy. Scientific improvement is possible by, he calls aporia, not you encounter something that is puzzling, it is an aporia. You need to solve this puzzle if you want to know more. Even if I read all of the philosophical texts, as I said, I wouldn't be able to explore all the puzzling things inside this text. But with the AI, it is recorded there in the system, in the model. Just when I ask a question, I can reach the model, I can get insight, and it is getting better and better every day. The only problem I see, who is encountering AI is very important. My quality is very important. So our main problem with students, I think the problem that is waiting for us is I want my students to use this AI now, tomorrow, but now at the moment, I have developed their cognitive capacities and they can ask questions and they can follow a conversation logically and they can force AI because I developed them. Let's think about the new students, the ones that before I developed them is thrown into this AI interaction. I think that's the main problem. Before I developed their capacities, because how do I develop their capacities? I gave them readings. I ask them questions. I make them write. I make them connect different disciplines, ideas, and concepts. Before I do this, if I let them interact with AI and in a lazy way, give me all the tasks, then that would interfere with their development. But I don't know how to separate this because we are living the same thing with the music industry. Think about it, Spotify. You can find anything you like, but you can't find Pink Floyd again because Pink Floyd cannot be banned in this mode of production. Because as it is so, software is eating the world. Spotify, in a way, is eating the musical. Everyone is trying to make use of algorithms. Songs started to resemble to each other. That's the same kind of problem. When you have the same thing is true for also AI data. Now AI used humans all gainings of epistemic success, all the tests. Now who is going to produce new test? That's also another problem. How are we going to feed into a system novel texts, novel thinkings? That's also, I think, a problem. I just speculate. I don't really. AI is able to process information and internal representation and draw inferences to be central to its ontological status. AI as an artificial life form, one way as a being to imagine AI, emergent form of artificial life. Because when you think about it, it can see. Sense perception doesn't have the other senses. Hearing also, yeah, we can say that it hears. Not in a way that humans do, but it's a form of hearing, form of seeing. So what if it starts to research on its own, for example, the sky, people's behavior, sentiment and emotion is not now in the development, but what if it is added on? Just as biological life forms have evolved and developed their own modes of sensing, learning, and interacting with the world, AI systems could be seen as a new class of intelligent entities. Let me repeat. First, we try to produce a consciousness, what we give up. Because most of the time, as people, we think anthropocentric. We try to develop things resembling us. Why? I'm a miracle. But I can't fly to the moon. Why do I need to fly to the moon? Or why do I need to imagine something that should fly as a bird, like a bird? So when you see in this way, we can see that it interacts with the world. It can have a model of the world. It can ask questions. It can sense. And I think we will start to see some questions that we never asked posited by AI. For example, probably with a huge data set and huge interactions, AI will tell us that humanity in this way is you live like this with this environmental pollution, etc. You cannot live long. Maybe it will help us. And AI as a relation. This is also important when we see AI as a relation being, because there is an interaction. And this interaction will change me and will change also AI. That's I think there is no turning point from that. You cannot, I think, have another Pink Floyd because that interaction started. Now you cannot imagine a world without Spotify. That's an type of interaction. And it will change us. It will maybe, this is my wildest speculation, probably we will develop a new form of learning as humans. Because I don't need anymore in maybe 20 years or 50 years. I will not need develop knowledge as AI because AI imitated me and started it by imitating me, but now it can scale up infinitely almost. Huge data set, no memory problem like me, no think about the exponential growth there. So as humans, we have a adaptation capacity. So probably our brains will find novel ways of interacting with the world and novel ways of asking questions, novel ways of producing knowledge. I don't know. That's my wildest speculation. It will change our brain chemically also. So in this perspective, as a relational being, you can use AI as a collaborative partner. You can ask questions. You can co-create. So it is a mutually positive way. And AI as an ontologically distinct identity. You could also consider the AI as an ontologically distinct type of being, one that does not need to fit into existing categories of biological or psychological or social entities, but it is an entity because the AI is being defined by its capacity to transcend traditional boundaries and introduce new modes of existence and interaction. Why? Because as humans, what we use sense perception. After sense perception, we use cognitive capacities and we get from the sense perception data universals, and when we observe, make science. Let's talk about sense perception. AI's sense perception could be different and better than mine. I can see infrared. Think about someone who is always using infrared sense perception capabilities and observing universe or other modes of. So with AI, just as we scaled memory of humans, just as we scaled cognitive capacities of humans, we can also develop sense perception capacities of humans. We can add other ways of sensing, interacting with the world. Do you follow me? Yes. Someone who is interested in philosophy, from time to time I have to ask, do you follow me? Because sometimes I can lose myself. Read this paper by when you have enough time. This is the turning point in the development of generative. It's very clear. Who would think that instead of consciousness, next token prediction produce intelligible conversation? Only predicting next word of a sentence, of an interaction. Where does this intelligence come from? Again, I'm Aristotelian in this manner. Logos, word. In ancient Greek, logos is more than word. In Aristotelian ontology, language and logos can carry us to the truth. And Aristotle goes as far as saying that there is a science which studies being as being and properties inherent in beings as beings, most general. And how do we preserve this knowledge and how do we reach truth? By laws. So next word prediction produces intelligence probably because there is an intelligence and truth buried or hidden in the language and the language structure. Probably because, as I said, it is giving results that is not hard coded in the code. It's called one-shot learning. At the moment, an AI system can interact with data that was not in their pre-training data set and make a decision. One shot. Because all the other trainings helps AI to develop analytic details. Development is exponential. This is when you interact with AI, this is a representation. I need you to think like you play a musical instrument, and when you enter a prompt, you just pull strings, of course. Why musical instrument? You just pull strings. Don't forget, you never reach at a moment all the model's capacity. You never reach to all the model because there is an attention window. It cannot make you use all the models. That's not data set, by the way. All the models, let's say. Because the main difference between interacting with generative AI and with the interacting with data set is this. I'm teaching also GPT and to adults in the corporate settings. The first instinct that they develop when they talk to ChatGPT, it's like they are using Google. So that's on their own model. But when you're interacting with Google, you have predefined labels and some database. And when you ask something to Google, it says, okay, let me check. Here, this doesn't work that way. There is no predefined boxes when you enter a prompt. The ChatGPT looks at, searches, finds, and gives you. No, it is miracle as a miracle. Depending on what string you pull, it gives you a level. Think about this analogy. For example, if you ask ChatGPT, give me a 1 minute talk on leadership, it will give you something. But if you say, give me 1 minute talk on leadership and role play set code, now you just pull the set code string. Then you pull the set code string model, may you reach a vector space. Attention of your need is paper is important for this one. Because model by examining your tokens and by comparing 2 by 2 decides where to put his attention. If you have set code and leadership, these are strongly connected words because in the pre-trained data, training data, they have lots of set coding leadership topics, blog writings. So attention score of set coding and leadership is high. So you reach the model's vector space in this area. That's why I said it's like playing an instrument. So wording in the prompt, what words do you put together changes the output. Or what parts of this instrument you pull the code. Oh, give me 1 minute conversation between set code and Tim Ferriss. Now you made 2 different strings in someone else. If you want more interesting things, pull the set code and string and then pull Mickey Mouse. Let Mickey Mouse and set code and talk about leadership in a dialogue for 1 minute. By the way, when you write instructional materials, writing role plays is seconds. Just give the limitations, just give the context, and yes, that's not done. When I interact with ChatGPT, that's what I imagine. I'm sitting in a huge string instrument and I need to pull some strings and as well, I can get the melody here and I can give this melody as an input to that's also interesting. A non-predefined text, generated text, can be used as input and as a new starting point for a new generation. That's also interesting. That's a little bit recursive. I can use ChatGPT's outputs as its input and pull other streams. I'm so sure that a very good professional ChatGPT could sit there and innovate, build suitcase. I'm so sure. By just asking some questions, by describing his or her problem, by pulling some strings, I'm sure that you could ChatGPT put in front of you. Why not put some wheels on a suitcase? That's so possible. As an educator, I can also sit and try to innovate because it can use analogies. It can use metaphorical thinking. You can cross-pollinate project management body of knowledge with chemistry, or you can, if you have difficult concepts that you cannot teach or it is difficult for students to understand, you can make ChatGPT develop easier models for you or metaphors for you. When I started, I thought that either you will have a 30 minutes because you will forget everything, or there will not be enough time because you will talk too much on a specific topic. Because this is how spontaneous. I like semi-structured things. So I have more slides, but I have minutes. So let's just wander around my slides.
You don't have to rush too much.
Yeah, okay.
But also don't really.
Yeah. I talked on most of the stuff. Neural network is also. I'm also interested in the history of development of AI. It's a very good intellectual endeavor. I advise also investigate on historical turning points. Neural networks is one of them. Factors detecting quality of the prompt quality, prompt and subject. This is important. This is I'm considering students I'm mostly thinking about. They could show me Stephen Wolfram is working, is researching on AI, and they have lots of videos that you can watch. One day he was guest in Lex Friedman's podcast. He's genius, is wonderful, and he makes concepts very easy to understand. But Lex Friedman was so away from the subject and was so unknowledgeable and was not catching anything at all. I could see the pain in Stephen Wolfram's eyes. That's who is sitting in front of the generative AI is very important. Her cognitive abilities, deep questioning skills, driving a conversation to a direction is also very important. Understanding what you are getting and putting Lex Friedman did none of. Okay, he didn't know the history of AI. He didn't know the concepts. So I was pulling my stuff to my head. Why don't you ask this question? Why are you interrupting? He's just talking. Just let him talk. Do not interrupt. So you are the expert. You are the truth checker. You are the controller. Never get anything from ChatGPT without critical thinking and fact check. If you don't have strong expertise in the subject matter, do not accept everything from them. So who you are is very important when you use GPT and in the output. Input format, context feedback is easy. Prompt quality, as I said, there is an attention function and it compares 2 by 2 your prompt words and gives it a score and then takes this scores to a vector space. When I say vector space, everyone understands something, right? A vector space. Yeah. Context and semantics. Why it is important? Quality, because context and semantics. The verb order, verb link, what words do you use affects the output. Triggering relevant knowledge. As I said, temporary string, set point string. Which strings are you pulling? Precise descriptive language. By using tags and phrasing that align the model's training data. Because every model has its own training data. Every model has its own limitations. Yesterday I asked the model's limitations. It didn't tell me, by the way. It's confidential. I asked how many transformers do you have? How many neural layers do you have? I can tell you, I didn't context window. This is, by the way, at the moment imposed by the model owners. They can give you wider context window, in fact, but it would mean more processing power, and it would not sustainable. I think in future this will also get larger and larger. Do not be amazed. Length should be not very short, not very long subjects. This conformance, this is a word embedding vector space. As I said, 2 words by 2. For example, when I go to cinema, if you ask ChatGPT to complete this sentence, when I go to cinema, each word, for example, when, compares itself with when I, when go, when to, when cinema. This way, it gives an attention span. Because in the training data, these words are not used in the same frequency, Very clever. Attention is all you need. So, when you take the model to a contextual vector space. That's how it understands your meaning. That Chomsky, for example, proposed that artificial intelligence could not develop a semantics understanding. That's also false. Now it can understand. And another important point is understand using data points. And next point, next problem, in 2 minutes I'll finish. I asked a model, I think it was Opus. I asked when I enter a prompt, what happens? For example, translate an English to French, transform-based translation model. Prompt entry, you provide the English sentence. Do doc, change the adapter. Tokenization. First, it tokenizes. Each one is a token. Then, embedding the word vector space embedding space. Each token is looked up in model's vocabulary and corresponding token embedding is inside. Positioning encoded. The position of the word in the sentence. It is encoded. Attention and context, this is the important part, because this is what gives AI to understand, capacity to understand your meaning. Decoder input preparation, French token generation, output French translation. At the moment, it's very successful. And you don't need to teach generative models a language. You just give words and tokenization using and data, and it's done. I like this background to this emergent behaviors of AI. Zero-shot behavior, I talk about capacity of a language model like ChatGPT to perform a task or generate responses without any specific training examples or fine-tuning. Creepy, right? Very creepy. But exactly, to perform a task or generate response without any specific training examples or fine-tuning. In other words, the model is able to generalize its knowledge to perform a task it has not been explicitly trained on. That's the essence of generative AI and AI models. There are emerging behaviors that are not pre-planned and prescribed.